Alright, so let's get set up, and obviously we need to have Xcode 5 open. And once you've done that, you can go over here to a new project, and this is going to be a Sprite Kit project, of course. So go over here to iOS application, and you should see Sprite Kit game. Click on next, and let's go ahead and just call this quest. For your class prefix, this is up to you. CS, that's just for Cartoon Smart. So pick out whatever letters you think are most representative to you. Although, you know, since you do want to be following along with me, I guess it's probably best if you just go ahead with CS for now as well. And we can leave this set at universal. And let's just go ahead and click next. I'm going to save this out on my desktop in a folder called RPG Heroes Projects. And what I'll do is when we hit kind of like big milestones throughout the course, I'll probably end up saving just different versions of those. All right, well that's weird. I don't know why by default it had portrait upside down clicked off, but I'm going to go ahead and take off landscape, left and right, and I'll just leave on portrait. And really the only reason I'm doing that is because the background image that I have for or that I've been using, it has been portrait sized. Okay, now let's go and give this just a quick test run and make sure everything is kind of running okay, and then we're going to deconstruct what's going on with this. All right, so I've got the simulator here, and if you have not paid your developer fee, it's all you can test on. You cannot test on your actual device. And what is opening up here is Hello World, which the reason you're seeing that is because your first Sprite Kit scene is rendering that in there. All right, so that is what's taking care of that. And what we're going to do is create our own Sprite Kit scene to initially load to replace this one. So let's go over here to new and then file, and we can just go over here and grab any old Objective-C class. That's fine. Click on next, and for our subclass, let's go and I think if I type in SK, scroll down a little bit. Actually, let's go ahead and type SKS, and there it is, SK scene. So for Sprite Kit scene, and oh, you know what? Let me back up out of that. Get to see it one more time. I didn't actually put anything in here other than CS. All right, so level, and click on next. This is that's fine. I usually click off both of those. Click create, and there we go. So we've got CS level in there, and let's go over here to our view controller. You can see that by default this imports in CS my scene, so that was that one right there. Let's go and change that so it says CS level.h, and now you're going to get this little red icon right here because it has no idea what this is anymore. Well, we're just going to change that to CS level, and that is actually all that we're going to need to do with our view controller. In fact, I think for probably all this project, that's all we're gonna have to do. Okay, now let's go over here to the CS level, and we've got a .h file, so our header file, and our .m, our implementation file. This is pretty blank right now. Let's go and take what we want to keep from our template file, and we're gonna bring it over here into level. So I'm just gonna copy from the end here all the way up to the our first method, the init with size, and I'm just gonna now go over here to the M file. So just replace out that at end and just paste that in. Then let's go and take out. Well, I guess at this point we could run this once, just seeing hello world, but let's type this hello level. How about that? All right, save it, and you can see I got rid of that touches method because we don't need that right now. And in fact, I don't think in my yeah, no, we're not using that at all. All right, so this is a good sign. Okay, we've made it this far where we've replaced CS My Scene, and of course we're now seeing the level actually load up, and we actually will end up putting a label on here, so we can keep this code for right now. But let's go ahead and start to get rid of things that we don't need at all, which is going to be this CS My Scene, or whatever that prefix was in your case. And I'm just going to select both of those and just move them to the trash. I just hit delete on the keyboard, and they are gone. You know, anytime I move something to the trash, I kind of like to publish it afterwards just to make sure I don't get any sort of warnings that might arise from the project still thinking those files are around. And sure enough, that's fine. So we are we're in good shape there. Okay, next up, let's add in another new file. This one will also be an Objective-C class, and it's just going to be a subclass of SKScene again. This will be our start menu. Click on next. And by the way, while we're here, notice how I have this folder selected, and it's showing me what's essentially in this part of the project versus being up here with the actual .xcode project. I much prefer that, and the reason is I'd rather create files inside of this main folder than kind of in here. You can still publish fine and you know, work through creating your app and everything like that. If you do end up creating files out here, but I just think organizationally it's much better to just kind of leave things inside of here. So go ahead and hit create. All right, and sure enough, it should dump your files in here. I do like to kind of keep the classes together so you can move those around, and if you did end up getting something that was created outside of there, you can bring it in here. And all right, now let's go and steal some of that same stuff from the our level class and put it into our start menu. So we'll just throw that in there. Of course, one thing it definitely doesn't want me to put in here is that @implementation line. So undo that if you happen to make that same mistake. And let's just put a little note in here that says start menu. And actually later on we'll pretty much just use this class as a way to restart the game. So after you kind of die in the level, you'll come back over here to the well, you would consider either the start menu or a restart menu. So they kind of act as the same thing. Let's keep creating files since we're just basically getting set up in this particular video. So once again, let's go over here to creating an Objective-C class. And this time the subclass is going to be skNode. So this is just going to be, oh, and you know what? I should put in here the actual class name. This will be our character. Click next, click create, and there we have our CS character. We are pretty much done creating our class files for right now. All right, so this should give you some indication of how well, relatively simple the just the foundation of this project will be. We've got a level, and we've got a character, and we've got essentially just a start menu. Okay. All right. I like to have a constants.h file, and I'm going to go ahead and create this right now. We're going to go over here to resource, or I'm sorry, is it under? Yeah, other, empty. Click on next, and we're going to call this constants.h. Then click create. Because I chose that that other option, or just an empty file, this did not create an accompanying implementation file. This is just a header, and to give you a good example of some of the type of things that I put in here, well, let's put in some things that we'll actually end up using sooner than later. I like to define some of my static or unchanging variables in here, and one of them might be something like no direction equals 0, and then you just put your semicolon after that. And let's go ahead and just copy this a few times. So up equals 1, down is going to equal 2, left is going to equal, can you guess, 3, and right is going to equal 4. And now, or at least later on in the game, when I want to refer to the character going up, down, left, or right, I can just write in there up, down, left, or right, or no direction. I don't have to worry about saying if the current direction equals 1 and having to remember mentally that 1 equals up. I can just write something like if current direction equals up. All right, so that's that is why I do this, and they're just kind of neatly tucked away inside of this constants file, which I can import into any of my other classes if I need to reference those, instead of perhaps taking these same variables and writing them once in the level class, once in the character class. So they're all just staying put in this one particular file. And now let's go and let's create our game data.plist, or our property list. So once again, come over here, new file, and I always forget what the property list is. I'm in the other one, aren't I? All right, so resource, there it is, property list, and we'll call this guy game data. Hit create, and there it is. All right, it's time to talk about a property list. If you guys have already watched the introduction, which you should have, hopefully, then you already know what the property list is doing. What you need to do now is kind of how to set things up with this. So we're gonna click the plus sign right here, and this will always give us a new item. Let's call this item levels, and we're gonna make this into an array. And now let's go ahead and add one item inside of here. And this item, oh, actually, you know what? Well, this is a good thing to learn about property lists. You would think that clicking, I'll show you that to you again. You'd think that clicking this, right, would create an item inside of the array, but nope, you gotta unfold that, then click this, and now you'll see item 0. So this will end up being a what's called a dictionary, and it's basically just, you know, a group, or you can think of it like a folder of more items inside of here. And yet again, let's unfold that, and then we can start to put things in. So, for example, one thing we might want to put in would be a background, and this would be the name of the file we might want to use for the background image. Nice thing about this is that you know, once I've gotten an entire level created, my first one, then I can go and I can just hit copy, paste that down there, and now item 1 is going to be my second level. And if that confuses you, just remember that your arrays are always going to start with 0, whether it's in a property list or over there in the code. But you can't rename these, so you can't be like green level, red level. At least in the property list here, they're always going to be item 0, item 1, and so on, like that. If you're testing things out and you want to kind of jump to the 10th level, you know, instead of obviously publishing your app or your game and playing the first 9 levels, when you're just testing things, all you have to do is just, you know, drag this up here, and it will make that one become the first level, and you can just drag back down. So that's yet kind of another nice thing about using a property list. Well, maybe it's easier to drag up. There we go. And you know, obviously, as we're building this up, you really don't need more than one item in there. Otherwise, you're going to find that you know, if you create like 2 or 3 levels, and then through development you're like, oh, it'd be great to have a foreground image now, then you're gonna have to go and create that foreground image or property in every one of the levels. Okay, and I kind of have done that with the characters I've been creating. I'm like, all right, well, this will be the last time I had some sort of new functionality, and I'll paste in items for, you know, each character that I'm testing, and then I'm like, this is silly, I just need to copy, delete them, and copy and paste them again. Alright, as far as we're concerned, let's just go ahead and create one more item for right now, and I'm going to call this characters, and I'm going to change it from a string, which is just text, over here to an array. So now we've got an array for our levels, and on our first level here we've got an array for our characters, and I'm just going to drag that down there. And if you haven't figured this out yet, or if you're curious about the difference between a dictionary and an array, they are very similar in that, obviously both of them kind of unfold to show more items in here. An array is an ordered list, okay, where as you just saw a second ago, we had item 0, item 1, item 2, and that specific order is very crucial, in terms of kind of when the app cycles through the data. And I mentioned in the introduction that whoever your first item in the characters array is, that's always going to be your leader by default. Then the other ones after that, they're not set up to be the leaders. But in a dictionary here, you tend to look up, you do look up your items by a particular key. So regardless of where this item is, this could be below the characters array, it could be at the bottom of 20 other items, but our code is going to look up and it's going to say, find me an object, okay, find me an object with the key, and see there's your key column right there, of background, all right, and then it's going to associate that key with the file name for whatever it is. So that's kind of I think as good as I can come up with it. So the differences between a dictionary and an array on a fly like that. Ordered versus unordered. All right, so for our characters, let's just add one item in here. Again, this is going to be our kind of anonymous item 0. We can't change that name. It's always going to be item 0, item 1, item 2, and so on like that. And this is going to be a dictionary itself. Okay, so that means that we're going to have multiple items inside of here, and one of them would be our base frame for the image. In which case we'll just call that character. All right, and again, for making more than one character, you just paste out those items like that. But for right now, let's just use the one, and I think that's enough to get us started with our property list. And I would just leave everything unfolded like that. Don't worry about folding things up, making them all clean when you exit the file. So let's go ahead and bring in just a couple images, and we're going to go over here to our image assets folder, and there's a couple ways you can go about this. I'll just go ahead and click the plus sign for now, go to new image set, and this one we're going to call character. Just type that right in there, and you'll see that changes the name over there. And then in the folder with all of your projects, I've got a source images folder. Okay, so this will contain, and right now it only contains 4 files, but as we need them, I'll start putting them in here, of our assets. So I'm going to throw in here our default pose. You can see that one, and we got our default pose at 2x, so this is our retina display one. And then we've got our map. It's a pretty big map, and same map, but the smaller size. So this is and let me just open this up in preview real fast. This is 1536 by 2048, so that's pretty big map size. All right, an iPad would fit inside of, or the iPad screen, and this is intentional, of course, is going to cover that area right there. All right, so by default, you're going to see this. You can see your little image or your character right in the middle there, and then you'll be able to roam around in the rest of the area, right? And then of course your the HD size is exactly double that. So they're both pretty big images, and this one is about as big as you can make it. All right, Xcode doesn't want to, or your device doesn't want to load images much bigger than that. All right, so we'll go ahead and throw in that one right there, this one right here, and then as I was saying, another way you can go about this is to just drag in your image into here, and it will just give it that base name minus the that PNG part. But what I told the property list is that we were going to call this level map 1, I think, and I'll go ahead and just double check that real quick. Yep, level map 1. All right. And by the way, you don't need that spaceship in there anymore, so feel free to. That came with the template. All right, so toss that out. We've got our character. We've got our level map in there. And while I've got a little bit of time, I'm just going to go ahead and set up our folders for our atlases, and those are essentially your sprite sheets, or what would have been called sprite sheets. I guess we'll call them atlases now. So to create these, all you have to do is just create a new folder and give it any old name, and then you just put .atlas afterwards. And then I'm going to go over here to add files to Quest, and sure enough, I think yep, already in the right place. So I'm just going to click on that front.atlas, click on add, make sure these are all set in there, and there it is. So obviously there's nothing in that folder right now, but if I put anything into this, you would immediately see something. And I guess I could always test that by, let's see, I'll go ahead and copy in one image. Okay, copy that in, and sure enough, there it is. All right. I don't actually want that image in there, though, so let's get rid of it. But again, that we can test, make sure that, all right, is it actually gone? Yep, it's gone. All right, so we're gonna do that same thing with a few other names. I'm gonna call one of these blob.atlas, and let's do one called side.atlas and back.atlas. Still.atlas. Okay. And you might have guessed that this will have these still frames, or the resting frames, side frames, and back view frames, and of course I already created the front view frames. So let's just go over here to add files to Quest again, and let's grab this one, and that one. All right. Oh, darn. For some reason, put them. Okay, good. It just organized them up there at the top. I'm gonna drag them back down there. What I was checking was to make sure that they stayed inside of this folder with all of our classes and everything, and kept this folder nice and clean. All right, so we have I think pretty much initially set up our project, and we should be ready to get serious programming after this. And I'm surprised I haven't said this yet, but so I'm saying it now. If you guys don't already know some basic Objective-C, or if you want to get a little bit of a head start in Sprite Kit, feel free to go and watch the free tutorial I have on Cartoon Smart's website, and you can find that over here. Right now it's currently linked up on the front page, but there it is. All right, introducing Sprite Kit, and this is a free lesson, so don't think that this is an upsell within a lesson that you've already bought, but not that I'm above that. But there's a lot of good just basic Objective-C inside of here, and if you want to like kind of really slowly read it, you can also go over here and check out the free preview of my iOS game programming book. And this is about Cocos 2D, but the first few chapters are mostly about the basics of Xcode and Objective-C, and they definitely apply to this. So it's a good primer, but because I do want to kind of get us rolling in the next few videos, and as quick as possible. All right, so I'll be back.